My name is Matthew Maynes, and I am a senior developer on the Analyst team. And I'm going to be taking you through a basic demo of developer and analyst for KX. So what we have, developer is an IDE for KDB and provides a HTML5 user interface for interacting with Q. It's really geared towards the developer role in KDB. So it has a lot of features towards that end. Things like code completion, as well as debugging, live editing, as well as live execution are all really the core functionality of developer. And what this really builds is basically a platform for a data scientist. And that's where Analyst comes in. So Analyst is an addition on developer where we've taken the core functionality of that a developer would need to be able to play around with data interactively. And then we've added on a lot of visualization capability as well as a data pipelining tool for data ingest, transformation, all really focused on more of the business user aspect. The objective really there is to remove the layers of KDB but maintain the performance and really make KDB adoptable to a lot of an audience that wouldn't be able to use it normally. So what I'd like to do is actually take you through a demo of what Analyst is like. So to begin, I'll just go to my Analyst session. And as you can see, I'm actually running Analyst from my local machine. Analyst runs right in a queue process, and everything we're doing is in queue. So to get started, what I'm going to do is take you through a workflow of how a data scientist would use Analyst to do a basic project. So what I have here is some CSV data of some trades that on North American stock markets. And that data is in a table format that I'd like to parse and use for some analysis. So what I'm going to do is use some of the data tools that are provided with Analyst to import this data into my environment. So what I have here is the table importer, and this is a preview of the data that I'm going to be importing. And as we can see from the preview, this data is a bit messy and needs to be cleaned up. So right away, the table importer is going to basically guess the schema of the data that needs to be imported. And it's going to give me options to select different types depending on my requirements. Now, in this case, I can see that the dates are obviously not formatted in a way I can use. So I'm going to have to do some further further preparation on the data. So to do that, I'm going to launch into our table transformer. And this is really a data engine. The objective with the table transformer is to build up a workflow to bring data into your system and then bring it into some other format that can be consumed by your visualization toolkit. So here I have my source table. And what I'd like to do is clean up this data. So just by point and click, I'm going to add some actions to actually refine the data in my data set. Here, for example, I'm going to parse these dates into actual KDB dates so that I can really leverage the power of the time series database nature of KDB. I have some malformatted float data here as well, so I'm going to use the built-in transformer functionality to parse this data into usable format. In this case, I'll use floats, and there we go. So I can build up these workflows, and once I've built up a sufficiently complicated workflow, I can actually run this to import my data. Here, for example, I've implemented a visual join where I've taken the same data set that we've started with, enriched it with some data from some actual exchanges, and added several output nodes to my transformation. What I'm going to do is actually run this transformation, and this is going to import the data into my process. We can also embed visualizations in the transformation, which we can use for reporting while we're running this. Everything that we do in the transformer gets built down into a KDB plus function. What that means is we can do all this visual programming without needing to know Q, take it, and then put it into a real-time system or share it with a developer where they can now consume this transformation that we've built and use it in their data science project. Great, so I've imported the data now. And if I hop back to my workspace, I can actually look at the data in my process. Here, for example, I've imported a securities table, which is now available to me in my process view. I can now now that I've got the data in, it's time to do some analysis and actually find something of interest. So I have trades information here, so I'm going to do some visual inspection on it and hopefully tumble the data to find something useful. The tool that I've opened up is our visual inspector, and what this allows us to do is basically visualize data in the similar fashion, in a self-serve fashion, as the transformer, but at really high scale. So again, this is running on my laptop, and I have 15 million records, but what I would like to do is plot this, this distribution of the data in a histogram. So what I've done is taken that 15 million, condensed it down into a histogram of the different exchanges of the data. I can add other dimensions to the data by adding things like color or size to illustrate other points of the data. Here, for example, I'll add the volume amount of trades per exchange as a color depth to the visual. And what this allows us to do is see that the New York Stock Exchange in our data set has a much higher volume than the other exchanges in our data set. So that's great. And now that I've found something of interest, I can save these visuals just like I've saved the transformation. I can then use the visual inspector to share these all through our Git-backed environment. So here, for example, I've taken the closing value of all of the stocks, and I've plotted a few of them in a line graph to see the individual movement of these stocks. And now that I've found something of interest, I can collapse this down, and using the built-in grammar of graphics, which is a visualization library built into Analyst, I can actually visualize all of this data right from my command line. Sorry, right from Analyst. So here, for example, I've taken that same visualization tool set and applied a custom visualization that I can render on this entire data set and see the plot live in front of me. I can also interact with these visuals and drill down on subregions to find something of interest. Once I've built up a sufficient set of visualizations, I can then take these visuals and embed them in a dashboard and really use them for a reporting toolkit on top of this data analysis that I've done. So in summary, what we've taken is some data from raw formats and very quickly through the user interface and Analyst, imported this data into Q, and we've done very little programming to be able to take this raw data format that we didn't really know much about, explore it a little bit, tumble it visually, and then combine it together to have some visual summary of the information that we've discovered. Thank you.